Hello. Well, I'm going to read to you one of the first ebooks that I wrote, a quick jog through the Bible. And I started writing in parts to my Sunday school class. And it was basically to help them understand how the Bible, both the Old and the New Testament, is just one book, and how the different chapters and the different books all fit together. This is my commentary concerning some of the books in the Bible and a brief understanding about what the Bible is. And if you download the ebook that's in the down below in the description, you'll be able to see the link to go to lulu.com, and you can download this ebook or any of my other ebooks for free. Now, the cover of the book was generated by my wife, Linda. And you can see from the first page here that we start off with the table of contents. We talk about the Old Testament, then we get into Genesis and the various other books. Go into the New Testament, Revelation, not an S, it's Revelation. And then we talk a little bit about the church history and some of the state churches. And we'll start off here at the beginning, the Holy Bible. The Bible is composed of 66 books written by 40 plus people. Since the Bible was written by these people over several thousands of years, some skeptics cast suspicions that it was not integrated or true. The Bible can be proven it is integrated and literal and authored by someone outside of our time domain. Many skeptics have argued that these specific books do not contain prophecy, as they claim the books were written after the events and thus they were historical books. Archaeologists have found proof that the books containing prophecies were written hundreds or even thousands of years before the prophecy was fulfilled. Professor Lawrence Mikaitite, and I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation for his name, and I apologize if it's not, and confirmed that there are 50 biblical figures in the Bible, and he published in April 2014, Biblical Archaeology Review from Purdue University. The more you study the Bible, you will discover new meanings for various verses. A famous philosopher, Augustine, discovered the New Testament is in the Old Testament concealed, and the Old Testament is in the New Testament revealed. Most attacks on the authenticity of the Bible concern prophecy contained in the various books. More than 8,000 prophecies, Isaiah and other books by prophets, have been under heavy attack. Some prophecy has already been fulfilled. Jesus fulfilled over 300 prophecies during his life, crucifixion, and resurrection. Some of the prophecies were written 1,000 plus years before Jesus' birth, his birth. Enoch stated the first prophecy. Some of the prophecies are being fulfilled in our lifetime. Prophecies fulfilled authenticate the Bible. Paul tells us that prophecy is the more sure way of faith. The Bible is the only book in the world that makes predictions hundreds or thousands of years before the event occurs. The fulfillment of prophecy authenticates the Bible. Some agnostic or atheist scholars have argued about the time certain books of the Bible when it was written. The most attacked book is the book of Daniel, as it contains very detailed prophecy that has been partially fulfilled. Many of the arguments are dismissed once the Septuagint, which is abbreviated LXX, being 70, this is written by 70 authors, or professors, translators, was authenticated as being written in 270 BC, or 270 years before the birth of Christ. The Septuagint was a Greek translation of all the Old Testament books and was written in Hebrew and Aramaic and contained the book of Daniel, therefore proving that some of the things that Daniel had prophesied had not yet come to pass, and so they would be fulfilled later on, after his death. Now, the Muslims called Muhammad the prophet. Now, I have searched the Quran and did not find even one prophecy from Muhammad. J. Barton Payne, in his Encyclopedia of Biblical Prophecies, lists all the prophecies, predicted verses, and how many predict different matters. The separate matters is consistent with other subjects in the Bible. There is not a book on baptism. The understanding and practice and meaning of baptism is spread throughout the Bible. In the same manner, there are more than one instance of a prophecy on an important subject. Payne lists 8,362 predictive verses, 1,817 predictions, and 737 separate matters. God knew that people would try to remove verses, so all major doctrines are spread throughout the Bible. First example is the Gnostics in Alexandria, Egypt, were the first to remove verses and insert their own words. Some churches today teach that they have replaced Israel in the Bible. To avoid embarrassing questions, they do not teach the book of Revelation. And Revelation is the only book in the Bible that claims a blessing to all that read and understand it. Others attack the Bible since it contradicts Darwin's theory of evolution. The Darwinians have never proven the concept of evolution, yet it is still being taught in schools. DNA was discovered and mapped in the 1960s. Thereafter, because of the complexity of the DNA, mathematicians and physicists quickly dismissed the Darwin theory of evolution as being impossible to occur as a random occurrence, as Darwin's theory proposes. Human DNA has over 3 billion possible combinations. The probability of a DNA strand being formed in a random Darwin process is 1 times 10 to the 650. That's 650 zeros behind a 1. To put this probability into non-mathematical terms, it would be like winning every Powerball drawing, twice a week, 52 weeks a year, for the next 10,000 plus years. Mathematicians and physicists consider any probability this large to be observed, to be done by a random chance, just as a person winning so many Powerball lotteries. In other words, it has to have intelligent design. Astronomers have many problems to prove the theory of the Big Bang Theory, which is simply put from nothing a big explosion occurred and created the universe. Some of the problems are due to time. Time was first being proven by Einstein as being another dimension and was constant in its speed. Now time has been shown that it is slowing down. Some of the theories used to determine the distance of stars depended on the speed of time and the shift of certain colors of light versus time. There are many quotes in the Bible as to God stretching the heavens, and now astronomers are beginning to believe in the heavens being stretched, which would account for the jumps in the shift of the light spectrum rather than a smooth and continuous change. That's important because the shift in the light spectrum is used to measure the distance that particular object is from Earth. This change is familiar to us as the Doppler shift in sound. When we are standing still, the sound of a police siren or a car coming towards us changes continuously as it passes us and goes farther away as it smoothly changes again. What astronomers are seeing would be similar to us listening to a siren coming towards us and jumping pitches suddenly, multiple times, as it approaches us. This would be accounted for by the police car moving in excess of the speed of sound for a block, slowing down to normal speed, then moving faster than the speed of sound again for a block, then slowing down repeatedly. The same effect that astronomers are observing could be caused by someone, God stretching the fabric of the heaven instantaneously. Thus, jumps in the color spectrum of light geologists use. A quick analogy of God's view of time is like us watching a long parade from a helicopter and being able to see the beginning and the end at the same time. As you can see in this graph that was done by Dr. Chuck Missler at his school, that he starts off, one of the courses that you can take is Learn the Bible in 24 Hours, and this chart is taken from that course. But essentially, if God is where eternity is at, this minus infinity over here represents the beginning of time, or someplace way in the past, and the plus infinity on this side is way in the future, or eternity. So from God's point of view, he can see if this line represents a parade, he can see the start of the parade, or the past. He can see the present parade, which is passing right in front of him. And then you can also see the end of the parade that has already passed and is stopping. And you can see that all at one time. Now, geologists are having and which explains the reason why that he can have authors in the book write down prophecies that are occurring that occur in the future and are fulfilled precisely. Geologists are having similar problems with their theories that date Earth formation millions of years. The depth of the silt at the delta of the Mississippi River, which is where it flows into the Gulf of Mexico, indicates thousands of years of deposits and not millions of years. Grand Canyon formation is another problem. The geological columns used to date the layers of Earth have never been observed in nature. In fact, layers have been observed in nature out of the order predicted by the geological column. The Grand Canyon is an example. They have had a major problem when a dinosaur and a man footprints were found in the same rock strata. And of course, there should have been tens of millions of years between the two. Archaeologists and geologists have maintained that the times dinosaurs were on Earth died out were tens of millions of years before man appeared. These footprints on the same strata of rock create a big problem for them. They have a problem when petrified trees are found extending through several layers of rock that represent 20 to 100 million years of growth. The trees are growing and alive during the formation of the various rock layers as found in the Grand Canyon. The chart below shows how English versions of the Bible were created. The Tyndale Bible was the first English version of the Bible in 1526. The King James Version of the Bible was not created until the printing press was invented and the Middle Ages were over. Or sometimes called the Dark Ages, that suppressed laymen having copies of the Bible. I'm going to show you a chart, but the acronyms used in the chart are, the first one is LXX, which is the Greek symbol for 70, L being 50, X being 10, and X being 10, so that's 70. And that's because it was created by 70 scholars from the Hebrew text or Aramaic text of the Bible being used at the time. The Greek Septuagint was completed in 270 BC, 270 years before the birth of Christ. But after the Greeks conquered the world and made everyone speak and write in Greek, the text contained all the Old Testament, plus some books that were not included. This was used by the apostles in spreading the word of God after Jesus ascended, along with the letters that different apostles or disciples wrote to each other, Paul having written a lot of them, and of course there's James, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and the others that wrote letters to each other, and they used that also to distribute to people at the time. The MT that's over here, this is the LXX. The MT is a Masoretic text, which is a Hebrew text and is currently used in the Jewish faith. There are over 6,000 differences between the older Hebrew text and the Septuagint, with 1,000 being significant. The original text is at the Leningrad Library.